Hello guys, so today we shall be discussing regarding what are the structures that are forming the roof, the floor, the anterior wall, the posterior wall, okay. Not only that, so in one section, like for example in the sagittal section, right, or from the medial side of the cerebral hemispheres, we will see what are the structures that are forming the anterior, posterior, roof as well as the floor of third ventricle, and we will also do a coronal section like this. We will also do a coronal section in this way, and in the coronal section also we will see what are the structures that are forming the lateral walls, okay. Lateral walls, the roof, the floor and all, because in the medial section you cannot see the structures that are forming the lateral wall and all. So whatever I am telling you, I know if it is not clear, so it will be clear in a minute, okay. So what we do is that I want you to attend my previous lecture so that you will understand what is the superior-lateral border of the cerebral hemispheres and what is the medial border, right? But anyways, for example, again I'll tell you that let us say this is your cerebral hemisphere like this, right? This is your cerebral hemispheres. So this is your right cerebral hemisphere, left cerebral hemisphere. This is your cerebral hemisphere like this. Now in this cerebral hemisphere, right, this part which is facing you is called as a frontal lobe, right? So this part which is facing me is called as a occipital lobe. Now, in the cerebral hemispheres, this side is called as a supralateral surface, this is also called as a supralateral surface. Now, when I am dividing the cerebral hemispheres like this, you see this surface, these two inner surfaces, these two inner surfaces are called as a medial surfaces. If I have to show this medial surface to you, first of all I have to separate both the cerebral hemispheres and then I have to turn these towards you to show the medial surface. Now, the picture which I will be drawing is the medial surface, okay. So, let me draw the medial surface now. Right. Now, if you see here exactly, so how can you tell that this is the medial surface? Because on the medial surface, you have got a structure like this, and this structure which I am drawing right now is called as your corpus callosum. Okay, so this structure which I am drawing right now is called as your corpus callosum. Okay, so this is the corpus callosum that is present on the medial side. Yeah. Now, next important thing you need to know is that here anteriorly you have got a very important structure like this. Anteriorly you have got a very important structure. This structure is called as a genu. Okay, this is called as GENU. This is called as a genu of this corpus callosum. After the genu of the corpus callosum, this particular structure which is located here, this is called as a body or the trunk of the corpus callosum. So this structure over here is called as a body or the trunk of corpus callosum. When you come down here towards the tail region, here you have got a green color structure, see, right? Here you have got a green color structure, right? So this green color structure over here is called as what? This is called as splenium, okay? This structure over here is called as your splenium. So let me just write down these things over here. I was telling you that this particular structure over here is called as the genu, and this is called as the body or the trunk, okay, and this particular structure over here is called as your splenium. This is called as your splenium. Now, next important thing here is that you have to be sure that exactly at this part like this, right, exactly at this part, you have got this structure which I am drawing right now. This structure is your midbrain, okay. So what is this structure over here? This structure which I am drawing right now is your midbrain. So this is your midbrain. Now, within this midbrain, there are some very important structures which you need to know. I will tell you in a minute what are the structures that are located within the midbrain and all. But for now, what you need to know is that just beneath the genu, okay, just beneath the genu over here, you have got a very important structure which is marked with the blue color like this, okay. This structure over here is called as a rostrum, okay. What is this structure over here? It is called as, this structure over here is called as the rostrum. This structure over here is called as a rostrum. Just below the rostrum, you have got a ball-like structure over here. This structure is called as your anterior commissure. Okay, so these things we have discussed in our previous classes. Already we have discussed about this. Okay, so this structure over here is called as your anterior commissure. This structure over here is called as anterior commissure. Next, after this anterior commissure, you have got another structure that is hanging down all the way down like this. Okay, so this structure which is hanging down all the way, and this structure is also the last part here, right? So this is called as linea terminalis. Okay, what is the name of this structure? This structure over here is called as your linea terminalis. This structure over here is called as your linea terminalis. Now, to the tip of the linea terminalis, you have got a structure that is attached like this, you see. So, this structure which is attached to the tip of the linea terminalis is called as your optic chiasm. What is optic chiasm? You know, we have got optic nerves. Both the optic nerves, they cross each other. They partially decussate each other, right? Decussate means cross. So, when they are partially crossing each other, the center point where they are crossing is called as optic chiasma. So, this structure over here is called as your optic chiasma. Optic chiasma. Now, from this optic chiasma, right, from this particular optic chiasma, you have got a structure that is coming down like this. Now, these two structures which are coming down like this is called as tuber cinerem. What this tuber cinerem is doing? The tuber cinerem is joining each other and forming a conical shaped structure, right? A cone like structure. So, when they are joining together and forming a cone like structure, this cone like structure is called as medial eminence. Okay, what is this cone like structure called as? This is called as medial eminence. So, let me just write this down. So, this structure over here is called as tuber cinerem. Tuber cinerem. Now, tuber cinerem joined together to form a conical shaped structure. This is called as medial eminence. This is called as medial eminence. Okay. Now, next important thing is that this medial eminence will hang down all the way like this, and it is hanging down in the form of a stalk, right? So, this stalk, whatever it is called as, this is called as a pituitary stalk, or you can also call it as infundibulum. Okay, this stalk over here is called as pituitary stalk or infundibulum. Pituitary stalk or infundibulum. Okay, this stalk is called as pituitary stalk or infundibulum. Now, to this pituitary stalk or infundibulum, you have got a structure that is coming like this. This is called as your pituitary gland, all of you know. So, we have got two types of pituitary gland. One is we have got the anterior pituitary, and the next gland we have got is a posterior pituitary. And this pituitary gland is lodged within this pink color structure here. This is called as sella turcica. Right? Where is the sella turcica present? It is present on the sphenoid bone. So, within the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone, your pituitary gland is lodging there. And yeah, by the way, we even have to write it down that this is your pituitary gland. Pituitary gland. Now, just behind the tuber cinerem, you have got another important structure like this. This structure over here is called as mammillary bodies, right? So, this structure which is located behind, this structure over here is called as mammillary bodies. How many mammillary bodies are there? We have got two mammillary bodies, right? So, these are called as mammillary bodies. Now, behind this mammillary bodies, you have got one more structure in this way. Okay. So, this structure which I will be drawing right now, yeah, this one, right? You see there are perforations here. So, there is perforations within this substance. So, that is why this is called as posterior perforated substance. So, when I tell posterior perforated substance, there should also be anterior perforated substance, right? So, anterior perforated substance actually you cannot see from the medial aspect. You can see from the inferior view. That thing I will draw and I will explain you where is this anterior perforated substance. But behind the mammary bodies, you have got this substance over here. This substance is called as posterior perforated substance. Posterior perforated substance. Next important thing, within this midbrain, if you look carefully, right, within this midbrain, you have got some small gap within the midbrain like this. Yes or no? See, this small gap which is seen within the midbrain is called as cerebral aqueduct. Okay, you see this? This gap within the midbrain is called as cerebral aqueduct. Okay, so what is the cerebral aqueduct? You also know that cerebral aqueduct will lead into which ventricle? Fourth ventricle, right? So this gap over here is called as cerebral aqueduct. So we have got something called as cerebral aqueduct, right? So these are the structures which you have to know. Second important structure which you have to know here is that here, if you look carefully guys, here you have got one more important structure like this. You see this structure? This structure over here is called as pineal gland, right? For pituitary gland, we have got a stalk called as pituitary stalk. In the same way, for pineal gland also we have got a small stalk like this. This is called as pineal stalk. Okay. So what are the structures over here? So this structure over here is called as your pineal gland. This structure over here is called as your pineal gland. And what is the other name for pineal gland? Pineal gland is also called as epiphysis. Okay. And this structure over here is called as your pineal stalk. Pineal stalk. Okay. So if you look carefully here, this pineal stalk divides into two laminae. One is called as a superior laminae, another one is called as the inferior laminae. See here now. See, it is dividing into one lamina which is going on to the top, right? What is this lamina called as? Superior laminae. It is dividing into one more lamina which is going on to the bottom. This is called as inferior laminae. Now, how does this superior laminae travel? This superior lamina will go anteriorly forward like this and then posteriorly backward, again anteriorly forward, and it goes and attaches like this. Okay, so this is the traveling course of the superior laminae. So superior laminae goes anteriorly forward, posteriorly backward, and again anteriorly forward and goes and attaches in this way. But look at the inferior laminae. Inferior laminae comes all the way like this and then attaches all the way here. Okay, attaches all the way here. So this is, one is superior laminae, another one is inferior laminae. Now here one important thing you need to know is that exactly near the superior laminae, here you have got one very important structure, and this structure is called as a commissure. So here we have got one commissure already. What is this commissure? We call this commissure as anterior commissure, right? So here also this black color dot whatever is there, this is also a commissure, and this commissure is called as habenular commissure. This commissure over here is called as habenular commissure. Okay. Now in the same way, we even have got another commissure in the bottom here. Okay. This commissure which is present down is called as posterior commissure. So here two commissures I have discussed. What are these two commissures? See, one commissure over here like this. This is called as habenular commissure. Okay. The next commissure which you will discuss over here is the posterior commissure. Posterior commissure. So far what did we discuss guys? We discussed that there is something called as pineal gland. Pineal gland is also called as epiphysis, and it is having a stalk called as pineal stalk. Pineal stalk divides into two laminae. One lamina is called as superior laminae, and the lamina which is coming down is called as inferior laminae. Superior laminae goes anteriorly forward, then back, again then goes and attaches. Inferior laminae comes down and attaches here. So near the superior laminae, the commissure which I have is called as what? This commissure over here is called as your habenular commissure. Near the inferior laminae, the commissure which I have is called as posterior commissure. Okay. Now, next important thing you need to know is that here there is one very important structure that is present like this. Okay, what is this structure? This structure is nothing but called as your fornix. Okay, what is this structure called as? This structure over here is called as your fornix. This structure over here is called as your fornix, right? Now, between the corpus callosum and between the fornix, you have got another important structure. See, all of you look here. So this is a structure which I am drawing right now. You see this structure which I am drawing right now, right? So this structure which you have in between the fornix as well as the corpus callosum, see this structure over here is called as septum pellucidum. Okay, this structure over here is called as septum pellucidum. Septum pellucidum. Okay, now if you look here carefully, you can very clearly see that there is a type of box that has been formed here. You see, there is a kind of box that has been formed over here. So this box, whatever is formed over here, right? So this entire box, whatever is formed over here, can I call this box as third ventricle? Yeah, this box over here is called as a third ventricle. Now, within this third ventricle, right, within this third ventricle or within this diencephalon, you have got two important structures. What are those two important structures? One is called as thalamus, another one is called as hypothalamus. So if this is the third ventricle, within this third ventricle, you have got something called as roof. All of you look here now. See this structure which I am drawing right now over here is called as the roof, and this structure is called as the floor. This is the anterior wall and back is the posterior wall. Okay, so how many walls do we have over here? We have got roof, we have got floor, we have got anterior wall, we have got posterior wall. But we cannot discuss lateral wall. You can see only one lateral wall here. Other lateral wall is on the other side. So that thing we will discuss in a coronal section. Okay, so on the medial side, whatever things we can discuss, we will discuss right now. Second important thing is that here exactly, let me use yellow sketch over here. Yeah, so exactly here, you see that I am drawing some yellow color line in between like this, right? This yellow color line is nothing but called as sulcus. What is the name of this sulcus? This sulcus is called as hypothalamic sulcus. Okay, so what is the name of this sulcus over here? This sulcus over here is called as your hypothalamic sulcus. So what is this hypothalamic sulcus doing? Hypothalamic sulcus is dividing the diencephalon. So this is the diencephalon. The cavity within the diencephalon is called as third ventricle, you know that. So it is dividing this diencephalon into two important parts. What are those two important parts? It is dividing into the upper part called as thalamus and the lower part called as hypothalamus. So it is dividing the diencephalon into two important parts. Upper part, above the hypothalamic sulcus, above and backward. See, above and backward you have got thalamus, below and forward you have got above and posteriorly. Okay, above the sulcus posteriorly you have got thalamus, below the sulcus anteriorly you have got hypothalamus. Okay, so these are some of the structures which are very, very important to know. And second important thing is that you can very clearly see that this is your pineal stalk. Right, let us say this is your pineal stalk. Pineal stalk is divided into superior laminae and this is called as inferior laminae. You see a triangular shaped area over here. So within this triangular shaped area, there is a structure which is embedded here. All of you just look at this. You see, let me highlight it with green. Okay, let us use this color. See, within this triangular shaped area, you see this structure which I am drawing right now, right? So this structure which is located exactly in between the superior and inferior lamina over here, you see this, right? So this is called as pineal recess. Okay, what is this structure over here called as? This structure over here is called as pineal recess. Pineal recess, recess. Okay, above this pineal recess also, if you very carefully look, you see above this pineal recess also you have got another structure. Yes or no? So what is this recess called as? Anything above is called supra to what? The pineal. So this is called as suprapineal recess. So this structure over here is called as suprapineal recess. So you have got two important recesses over here. One recess, what is that? This is called as suprapineal recess, and the other recess over here is called as your pineal recess. Suprapineal as well as a pineal recess. Okay, right. And yeah, these are the some of the important structures which you need to know. Okay, now if you look at what are the structures that are located over here, right? So the first important structure which we shall do is that we shall first discuss what are the structures that are located in the roof. Okay, so in the roof of the third ventricle over here, the first important structure in the roof, what is the structure that is located here, guys? You tell me now. Don't you think the roof is having only one structure over here, that is called as fornix, right? So the roof is having a structure and that is called as fornix. Not only fornix, there is also one more important thing. This is nothing but called as your choroid plexus. Choroid plexus. So these are the two structures that are present, that are forming the roof. Now after the roof, let us discuss about the floor. What are the structures that are forming the floor of the midbrain, the floor of the diencephalon or the floor of the third ventricle over here. Now structures that are forming the floor, first of all, let us start on with this particular structure over here. So the first important structure which you can see over here, what is this? So this structure which you can see over here is called as your optic chiasma. Just behind the optic chiasma, so this structure which you can see over here is called as your tuber cinereum. And behind the tuber cinereum, this structure over here is called as your mammillary bodies. So how many mammillary bodies are there? On right and left there are two mammillary bodies, okay? But from the medial view or the lateral view, you can see only one mammillary body. Next, behind that, what do we have? Behind that we have got the posterior perforated substance. So these are the structures that are forming the floor of your diencephalon, right? So let us see here, what are the structures that are forming the floor of your diencephalon? The first important structure which forms the floor of the diencephalon, the first important thing over here is this one. So this particular one, that is your optic chiasma. Okay, so let us write it down. So optic chiasma forms the floor. Optic chiasma forms the floor. After the optic chiasma, the next important thing over here is tuber cinereum. The next important thing over here is tuber cinereum. Third important thing over here is your medial eminence, right? Your medial eminence. Now after the medial eminence, the next important structure which you have got here is the mammillary bodies, okay? Mammillary bodies. Now after this mammillary bodies, the next important structure which you have is the posterior perforated substance. Posterior perforated substance. So what are the structures that are forming the floor of your diencephalon or the floor of the third ventricle? So these are your optic chiasma, that is one, and second important thing is your tuber cinereum, and then you have got your medial eminence over here, right? After the medial eminence, you have got your mammillary bodies and then posterior perforated substance. So these are the structures that are forming the floor, okay? Now what are the structures that are forming the anterior wall? So if you look here, the structures that are forming the anterior wall are, so first important thing I would like to mention here is that you see the rostrum. Rostrum forms the anterior wall, and after that anterior commissure forms the anterior wall, and after that linea terminalis also forms the anterior wall. Not only that, even optic chiasm is also included over here. But mainly we'll go for these three: rostrum, anterior commissure as well as the linea terminalis. This forms the anterior wall. Okay, so what are the structures that form the anterior wall? So tell me, what are the structures that form the anterior wall? The first important structure over here is your rostrum. Okay, now just beneath the rostrum, you have got anterior commissure. Just beneath the rostrum you have got anterior commissure, and just beneath the anterior commissure you have got linea terminalis. Okay, so these are the structures that form the anterior wall. Now what are the structures that form the posterior wall? So the structures which form the So the structures which form the posterior wall are, if you can see here, you see this particular structure. What is this? This is called as your habenular commissure. Okay, that forms the posterior wall. Next, you have got your suprapineal recess, and after that pineal recess, and after that your pineal gland as well as the epiphysis, and then what is this? This is called as your posterior commissure. So all these structures which are located on the back, they form the posterior wall of your diencephalon. Okay, so let us look over here. What are the structures that form the posterior wall of diencephalon? So the first important structure, whatever you can see here, is that habenular commissure. Habenular commissure. So after this habenular commissure, what do you have? You have got suprapineal recess. Suprapineal recess, and after that you have got pineal recess. You have got pineal recess, and after that you also got pineal gland. Pineal gland, and down to that we have got inferior lamina, and inferior lamina has got what commissure here? We have got the posterior commissure. We have got the posterior commissure. So these are the structures which are located posteriorly. Okay, so what are the structures that are located to the roof? We have got the structures that are located to the floor, anterior wall as well as the posterior wall. Now we did not discuss the lateral wall over here. So what we'll do is that we will make a coronal section, and there we will discuss what are the structures that are located to the lateral wall. Not only that, we even will discuss what are the structures, additional structures that are located to the roof and to the floor also. Okay, so some of the structures whatever I have written here, some of them are missing. Why they are missing? Because you cannot see it from this view. So we will make a coronal section, and from the front we will look at what are the structures that are located. So first we will draw the coronal section of the brain. So in this coronal section, this is how the brain looks. This is how the brain looks over here. And next important thing is that in the coronal section, what should I draw? I have to draw first corpus callosum, right? So let us say this is your corpus callosum like this. So corpus callosum is having two walls. What are these two walls which you can see over here? You see this wall over here is called as the outer wall, and this wall over here is called as the inner wall, right? Now exactly in the center over here, we have got a particular structure which I am drawing like this. This is called as septum pellucidum. As I already told you in my previous lectures, where is septum pellucidum present? Septum pellucidum is present exactly in the midline. So if you still have a doubt, this picture should clear off your doubts. So this is your, let us say this is your corpus callosum, and you see this particular thing is your corpus callosum. Okay, now in this corpus callosum, what did I tell you? I told you that exactly in the center over here, you have got a particular structure like this, right? So if you carefully see here, you see this is how it looks. So what is this actually? So this particular picture which I have drawn right now is your corpus callosum, and exactly in the center of corpus callosum, this particular picture what I have drawn is a septum pellucidum. Okay, so this is what I have drawn here. You see this is corpus callosum and this is the septum pellucidum. So this is from little bit an oblique angle when you are saying. If you are looking it directly from the front, this is how it looks, corpus callosum, and in the center septum pellucidum. And next important thing is that beneath, if this is septum pellucidum, beneath the septum pellucidum, what is this line which I have got? This is called as fornix, I told you, right? So beneath this, you have got a structure like this. This structure over here is called as your fornix. Okay, this particular structure over here is called as your fornix. Now, after this, next important thing you need to know is that on the sides of fornix, here I have got thalamus. So these two structures, whatever I have drawn on either side, this is called thalamus. And just beneath the thalamus, what is the structure you have got? See, tell me here. So thalamus is on the top. Beneath the thalamus, what do you have? You have got hypothalamus. So if that is the thalamus, then beneath the thalamus over here, I have got another structure like this, and this structure is called as hypothalamus. Okay. So one thalamus is on the right, one thalamus is on the left. One hypothalamus is on the right and hypothalamus is on the left over here. So here, this is your This is your thalamus, and this structure over here is your hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. Now beneath your thalamus and hypothalamus, what is the structure you have got? Just look here. Beneath the thalamus and hypothalamus, you have got what? You have got your midbrain, right? So beneath the thalamus and hypothalamus, this is the place, let us say you have got your midbrain like this. Okay, so this one is your midbrain. So what are these two cylindrical like structures? Actually one is called as the right crus of the cerebri, another one is called as the left crus of the cerebri. Okay, so right crus as well as the left crus of your midbrain. So this structure over here which I have drawn is your midbrain. Midbrain. And what is this gap in between the midbrain? This gap in between the midbrain is also nothing but called as aqueduct of Sylvie, cerebral aqueduct. This is the duct which I have told. You see, there is a gap in the midbrain and this gap is called as cerebral aqueduct. This is called as cerebral aqueduct. This is called as cerebral aqueduct. Okay. Now, where is the third ventricle? Where is the third ventricle is that this particular thing which you are seeing right now, you see, this particular cavity which you are focusing right now, you see this yellow color thing which I am drawing right now, this particular thing over here where I will be putting in number 3, this is called as your third ventricle. Okay. Now in this third ventricle, what are the structures you can see? You can see the structures which are located on the top are called as a roof. The structures which are located on the bottom are called as the floor. The structures which are located laterally on the right side, these are the structures which are located laterally on the left side. Okay, so you have got right lateral structures, you have got left lateral structures, you have got structures on the roof, you have got structures on the floor. Okay, so these are the borders of the third ventricle. Now here, if you very carefully look, what are the structures that are located on the roof, guys? What are the structures that are located on the roof? Roof is having, what are these two ball like things? These ball like things should be called as fornix. These ball like things, okay, let me put this picture over here. Yeah, so these ball like things are called as fornix, right? So in the roof, what do we have? You have got fornix. Here also, this is the third ventricle. The roof, what is this structure? This structure is called as your fornix, right? So roof is having what? Roof is having fornix. Fornix. Next, when you come to the floor, here in the floor, what do you have? Can I tell the floor is consisting of midbrain? Yes, the floor is consisting of midbrain. Okay. Now after this, we even have to discuss these two structures. What is this wall consisting of? This wall is called as a right lateral wall, and on the opposite side we have got the left lateral wall. Okay, we have to discuss the right lateral wall. Okay, we even have to discuss the left lateral wall. So right lateral wall is consisting of what? Right lateral wall is consisting of your thalamus and hypothalamus on the right side. Left lateral wall is also consisting of thalamus as well as hypothalamus. So we have got thalamus and hypothalamus on the right side over here, and here the same thing, thalamus and hypothalamus on the left side. So these are the structures which you can see over here. Now another important structure also you can see, if you carefully look here, there is also another important structure over here. Let us extend these corpus callosum little bit downward like this. Yeah. Now if you very carefully look here, you can see two more gaps. What are these two more gaps? See, here you can see, there is one more space over here on the right side, and there is also another space on the left side over here, right? You know what are these two spaces? These two spaces are called as lateral ventricles. Okay, so let us say this particular space over here is called as a right lateral ventricle. You know, in the cerebral hemispheres I have discussed about the ventricles and all. So there I discussed that within the cerebral hemispheres you have got 1 and 2 ventricles, right lateral ventricle and left lateral ventricle, right? So right lateral ventricle, and this one over here is called as your left lateral ventricle, right lateral ventricle as well as left lateral ventricle. Now if I ask you what are the borders of right lateral ventricle, what will you tell? just observe here carefully. One very important thing you need to observe here is that if I ask about the roof, what is the roof consisting of? What is this roof consisting of? All of you look here. The roof here is consisting of what? The roof is consisting of your, what is this? Corpus callosum. If I ask about the floor is consisting of what? It is consisting of thalamus. Right? If I ask you, what is the roof consisting of? The roof is consisting of what? Corpus callosum. If I ask you, what is the floor consisting of? The floor is consisting of what? It is consisting of thalamus. If I ask you, what is the medial wall consisting of? The medial wall is consisting of what is this structure? This structure over here is called as your septum pellucidum. Right? So, you have to know this right lateral ventricle and left lateral ventricle, both of them are the same. So, you have to know what is the roof of the right lateral ventricle consisting of. Right lateral ventricle. Okay. So, if you look at the right ventral ventricle, what is the roof consisting of? What is the floor consisting of? Right? Roof, floor as well as the medial wall. Roof, floor as well as the medial wall consisting of. Okay. So, what is the roof consisting of here? Roof is consisting of corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. What is the floor consisting of? The floor is consisting of thalamus. Okay. What is the medial wall consisting of? The medial wall is consisting of septum pellucidum. Septum pellucidum. Okay. You see this particular structure over here, this particular structure is called as septum pellucidum. Septum pellucidum. And down to the septum pellucidum, what do you have? You have got the fornix over here. Okay. So, these are the structures which you need to know. So, I think in the previous lectures itself, we have discussed that this is corpus callosum. Exactly to the midline of the corpus callosum, you have got septum pellucidum that is attached. Right. The same thing again today also I told you that this is corpus callosum, and this structure which is attached exactly in the midline is called as septum pellucidum. Okay. Septum pellucidum is attached exactly in the midline. And below the septum pellucidum, we have got what? We have got the fornix. So, I hope now you understood in this section what are the structures that are forming the roof, floor, anterior and posterior wall, and even in this sagittal section also, in this coronal section also, from the front you can very clearly understand what are the structures that are located in the roof, floor, right lateral wall and the left lateral wall. And here we have also discussed one more important thing, that regarding the right lateral ventricle and the left lateral ventricle, what is the roof, floor as well as the medial wall consisting of. So, these are the structures which you should be clear. Okay. Now, these are some of the very important structures which you need to know. Now, apart from this, what we will discuss is that we will discuss what are the structures that are located below the base of your brain. Okay. So, what are the structures that are located in the, not exactly in the base of the brain, but what are the structures that are located in the exact midline of the brain. Okay. So, if this is the brain over here, if this is the brain, right, so the lower surface is called as the base of the brain or the inferior surface of the brain. So, if I am lifting it up, the base of the brain you can see here clearly. So, what are the structures that are located exactly in the midline, we will discuss right now. So, if I have to discuss that, I have to draw such a structure which is exactly looking like the structure that is located in the base. So, these are your frontal lobes for example, and these are your cerebral hemispheres like this, right? Now, in this picture, what are the things you can figure out? The first important thing which I want you to figure out is that this structure over here is called as a frontal pole, right? And this structure over here is called as a occipital pole. And by the way, here we have got a temporal pole, but temporal pole is better visualized from the lateral aspect, right? Now, in this frontal pole and occipital pole, what are the structures you can see? First important structure here is that here you have got something called as olfactory bulb. How many olfactory bulbs I have got? I have got 2 olfactory bulbs. Now, just beneath your olfactory bulb, this structure whatever I have here is, this is called as olfactory tract. Okay. So, this is olfactory bulb and this is your olfactory tract. So, here also you have got olfactory bulb, you have got olfactory tract. Okay. Now, whatever structures I will be explaining you, I will just brief up the things because these things we have discussed detailedly previously. right? So if you watch the previous lectures, there very much detailedly we have discussed about each and every point within the olfactory. Only we have discussed all these things. So in a video called as a Rhinencephalon, there we have discussed very clearly what are the structures that are included in the Rhinencephalon. There all these things will come up. Okay, right. So after this olfactory bulb as well as olfactory tract, you see these dots which I am drawing behind, right? So these dots are nothing but called as anterior perforated substance. When I tell anterior perforated substance, there should also be posterior perforated substance. If you remember from this previous lecture over here, we have discussed something called as posterior perforated substance already, right? Where is this posterior perforated substance located? This is located behind the mammillary bodies, right? So now we shall look at, are the posterior perforated substance are really located behind the mammillary bodies or not? Next important thing is that what you basically do is that, guys, this is from the side view, right? Now in this side view, if you look at the structure, see, if this is a side view, this is the inferior view. You are looking from the down. When you are looking from the down, the first thing that should come up over here, what is this? What is this structure over here? Optic chiasma. Okay, so all of you look here, where is optic chiasma? See, this particular thing which I am drawing right now is your optic nerve. This is on the right side, so right optic nerve, and here I have got the left optic nerve. Right and left optic nerve, they partially decussate in the decussation in the sense they cross partially. So they cross like this, and this is how it results like this. You see, the right side is crossing onto the right, the left side is crossing onto the left, right? And this center point which you can see over here, exactly this center point which you can see over here where they are crossing, this is called as optic chiasma, right? So what is this structure called as? This structure over here is called as optic chiasma. And in front of the optic chiasma, what is this? This is called as optic nerve. One on the right side we have got the right optic nerve, one on the left side we have got the left optic nerve. And this one over here is your olfactory bulb. And this one over here is your olfactory tract. And this one over here is called as your anterior perforated substance. Right? Now, behind the optic chiasma, let us look at this picture. So first we have got optic chiasma over here, right? So behind the optic chiasma, what is this thing we have got? We have got tuber cinerem, right? So let us draw the tuber cinerem over here. Where is that tuber cinerem? So this particular thing over here is your tuber cinerem. See, this particular thing over here is your tuber cinerem. Now what is this tuber cinerem doing? Tuber cinerem will form a conical projection called as medial eminence. From the medial eminence you have got something called as infundibulum. From the infundibulum you have got your pituitary gland. Now behind the tuber cinerem, what is the structure you have got over here? Let's see. Behind the tuber cinerem you have got something called as, what is this red color one? Mammillary bodies, right? So let us see where are the mammillary bodies over here. So behind the tuber cinerem we have got two mammillary bodies here. So one mammillary body on the right and one mammillary body on the left. So these two structures are your mammillary bodies, right? Now let us see another thing over here. Behind the mammillary bodies, what do we have? If this is the mammillary body, behind the mammillary body, these perforations, what is this? These perforations are called as posterior perforated substance. So behind the mammillary bodies over here we have got structures like this. These structures, these perforated structures over here is called as posterior perforated substance. Okay, so behind the mammillary bodies, these are called as posterior perforated substance. Now behind the posterior perforated substance, behind the posterior, see, first we have got optic chiasm, then we have got tuber cinerem, then we have got this thing called as mammillary body, then we have got posterior perforated substance, And behind that, what is this structure? This structure over here is called as your midbrain, right? So where is the midbrain located in this picture? So this is your midbrain, which is located over here. You see, this is the midbrain. And in the center of the midbrain, you have got aqueduct. Yes or no? What is this? This is called as cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct. So these are the structures which are located over here. Now, one very important thing you need to know, we will come back to this, we'll just revise this. One very important thing you need to know here is that, you see, this is aqueduct, right? Now, anything that is present behind the aqueduct, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that is, you see, this part of this entirely is your midbrain. This entirely is your midbrain. And this center gap, whatever is there, is your aqueduct. Now, behind this, this part of the midbrain, whatever you can see here, this part of the midbrain is called as tegmentum of the midbrain. Okay, what is this part called as? This part over here is called as a tegmentum of midbrain. So this is called tegmentum of midbrain. Tegmentum of midbrain. This is called tegmentum of midbrain. Now, when you look at the top of the tegmentum of midbrain, see exactly here, if you are looking here, so this portion, whatever you can see, right? So this portion is the top portion of the tegmentum of midbrain, and not only this, this portion is present right below your thalamus. Yes or no? Just this is thalamus, just below the thalamus, you have got this pink color shaded area, right? So anything below the thalamus, can I call it as subthalamic? So this is called as subthalamic tegmental region of your midbrain. So what is this part? I don't have a space to write. See, all of you, I'm writing it over, let us say I'm writing it over here, right? So what is this particular structure? This particular structure over here is called as subthalamic tegmental region of your midbrain. Subthalamic tegmental region of your midbrain. So that is this particular part over here. Subthalamic tegmental region of your midbrain. Why is this very important? Why is this very important is that, if you very carefully look, within this you have got some specific nuclei. You see there's some red color nuclei I'm drawing over here. You know what are these nuclei? These nuclei are called as subthalamic nuclei. So where are these subthalamic nuclei located? Subthalamic nuclei are located within the subthalamic tegmental region of the midbrain. So it has got what nuclei? It has got subthalamic nuclei. Subthalamic nuclei. How many subthalamic nuclei I have got? So this is on the lateral, this is on the medial surface. Here you can see one, but on the other surface you can see another subthalamic nucleus. So we have got two subthalamic nucleus, one on the right, another one on the left, right? So this is the thing which I actually forgot to tell you. So I've finished it now, and let us get back to our original picture over here. So if I ask you what are the structures that are located exactly in the midline, what will you tell, guys? So what you do is that just draw a line like this all the way, right? When you draw a line like this, now tell me what are the structures that are located in the midline. So can I tell optic chiasm is located in the midline? Yes, optic chiasm is located in the midline. Beneath the optic chiasm, what do I have? I've got tuber cinereum. After tuber cinereum, are the mammary glands located in the midline? No. What is the next thing I have got? I have got the posterior perforated substance. Just beneath the posterior perforated substance, I have got the cerebral aqueduct. So these are the structures that are located exactly in the midline. So these are the midline structures of the inferior surface of your brain, right? So this is all you need to know. This is all you need to know regarding the walls as well as the structures, the midline structures that are located on the inferior surface of your brain. So thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.